Hey guys, today is a special day. We reached 300 subscribers. Thank you guys to everyone who subscribed, and I figured the best way to loop this around would be to talk about my jar. So let's head to the past and let's do a little run through of how my jar has been doing these past year and a half. In this clip, my tank is about 8 months old, and I was so surprised because during Memorial Day weekend, look who I found. There was a baby fish in here, and he's grown now quite a bit since we've seen him. I posted a short, maybe like a month ago, regarding his growth, and it wasn't very popular. So here he is again in his beauty. He's now a white cloud, or spoiler, it's a girl, and I named her Katniss Everdeen. You know, the Hunger Games. So as you can probably tell, I still had the wood in here and everything was going pretty swimmingly. No floaters yet, as you can see. So I wasn't really sure how this little fish got in here, but then I thought back to when I put in two white clouds inside this bowl here. Sorry, can't talk. And the water conditions must have been really good because they spawned. And it was interesting because as time went on, I started to notice that my pH was just really low and I couldn't get it to stabilize. I also started using filtered water to top up instead of doing water changes with water out of the tap, since the KH was so bad out of the tap. And through filtered water changes or evap refills, I was able to maintain it at a 7.0. Honestly, I wasn't even using prime anymore, and I was only replacing evaporation. But taking a look back at the little fish in here, I was so sure that this was a neon minnow. I was so sure he was a neon minnow. I mean, look at him. Classic coloration. I really thought that this was a neon minnow. And then through doing some research and looking at some breeding videos of white clouds, I said, wait, hold on a second. Oh my gosh. I'm a mom. I was so excited. I've never bred a fish before, and this was by accident. I had a vision in my mind of what I wanted, and I didn't think it would include low pH or all this swinging around with parameters. And this was enough for a organism to decide it wanted to breed here. And that's what I love about this hobby. Things change, and you just have to go with the flow, literally. That's why people either love it or hate it. It takes a lot of patience, and sometimes you get disappointed, but that's okay. You just gotta roll with it. Moving on, I got a neorite snail, which I named Neptune, and a mystery snail named Venus. And of course, floating plants. Let me tell you, this was the best part of this whole thing. Dark plants, healthy, growing, vibrant. I loved the way my tank looked here, or my jar looked great here. I loved it. I got compliments every day at work, and I really enjoyed looking at it, watching the baby fish and my snails. But goodness, I went to a pet shop and I saw this little guy. I almost took him home, but I didn't, guys. I didn't. So I started hatching out some baby brine shrimp at work, and I was feeding my little guy as often as I could. Basically, I fed him once a day, and then as they started getting bigger, I fed him twice, sometimes 3 times a day with baby brine shrimp. He loved it. I loved watching his little belly turn yellow. It was the sweetest thing. If anyone's curious, Miss Katniss is now a year old and at home with the rest of my fish. Here is my tank's ugly phase. Ugh. My plants were grown in a CO2 environment, and they were kind of just taking their time adjusting. The Anubias was half dead from being beaten up by my goldfish, and I put it in here like a recovery room. My jar has been set up now for over a year. A year and almost a year and a half, actually. I started it up back then, and it's been doing its thing. It's been growing. I've had plants go in and out. I've changed up some of the things in here. I went from having some wood in here, some opani, taking that out because of some problems I mentioned in a different video. I'll add that in a card here if you want to take a look at that. And we now have turned it into, I guess, not necessarily a nursery, but maybe a recovery room for all the plants that have been beaten up by my goldfish. I've been bringing them in here. So back there, a Java fern, Windalove, back in there, and then up floating around I also have a couple of Java fern
that I took from my home tank and brought them in here to see if I could get them to recover, because my goldfish have been really beating them up. And the rotala is doing great. I've got some new growth on the side. I also threw in some leaves from the javelin fern in my home, and you can see it's starting to sprout little tiny babies. So I know it's going to take a while, but how better else to get some immersed grown javelin fern going. Then I have, so like I said, I got some Windelov in here. I also have some regular javelin fern back there. And I also threw in some moss to see if I could get that to go. And it did. Oh gosh, this is really bad. But I do have some moss growing. I took a couple clumps home with me to see if I can add it to my new scape. And yeah, so you can kind of see a little bit of that moss right here, just like stringing anything that left behind. I really enjoy having it on this little turntable because I can take a look at all angles of the jar, which is really cool. And after I took the wood out, everything seemed to have stabilized a lot better. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to remove that here now that it's starting to warm up here in New York. And hopefully soon I can get rid of the bubbler. But I'm not sure yet because Neptune, my snail, is still in here. And I think he could use the extra oxygen. And then the only thing I'm having issues with is like the floating plants. I am killing the duckweed, guys. I don't know. And it's because I don't have enough nutrients in the water. I understand that. I do. I'm dosing potassium and I'm dosing trace, and it's just I think I'm gonna need a more heavy duty fertilizer because I don't know if I'll ever add shrimp or anything to this tank, but we'll see. So anyway, guys, this has been my little follow up on my jar. If you like the video, give a like, and if you want to stay on top of more updates, don't forget to subscribe. Bye, and thanks for the 300.